I hate frogs. Just hate frogs. And on Saturday, my Sooners getting upset by TCU 37-33. It didn't exactly win me any awards with the Horned Frogs. But in all seriousness, I do respect Gary Patterson and the Texas Christian Horned Frogs. They did one heck of a job. Their game plan was right. They outcoached the Sooners, outplayed the Sooners. They deserved to win this game. So I give it up to those guys. 25th ranked TCU. They're not going to be 25th after Saturday. Most Sunday polls come out. They're really going to shoot polls like a bullet. And for the Sooners, who were ranked 4th in one poll, 3rd in the other, it's like that game Chutes and Ladders when they reach that one spot on the board where you end up going sliding down big time. That'll be the Sooners come Sunday. It won't be pretty. Sooners, had some chances in that 4th quarter, despite the fact that it was far from one of their best games. But as fitting as it would be, couldn't take advantage. And lost by 4 on a week where we saw so many upsets. Oregon, losing Thursday. Couldn't learn from that Oregon experience, huh? We talked about that in the weekly matchup show. Like Will Rogers once said, everybody talks about the weather and nobody does anything about it. And the Sooners didn't learn from Oregon's loss to Arizona. Alabama loses Saturday to Ole Miss. A&M, previously ranked in the top 10. They won't be anymore after Mississippi State scores nearly half 100 on them. Nearly half the top 10, just like Cher once said, goes down in flames, just like Jesse James. And for the Sooners, I'm not prepared to say yet that this ends any national championship college football playoff hopes. Top 4 at the end of the year get in. But this is extremely damaging. Extremely damaging. If the Sooners don't make it in that Final 4 at the end of the year, they deserve it. They'll remember October 4th in Fort Worth. And has Fort Worth ever crossed their minds? Well, if it didn't before, it has now. The first 9 minutes of this game, as they would say in the movie Rocky II, those announcers, I'm going to tell you, it was just plain old butchering. TCU, the first 2 drives, it was like a movie script. I mean, they were able to just look good and move the ball downfield while doing it and score. Back-to-back touchdowns. The Sooners' first 2 drives, didn't even know what day of the week it was. Down 14-0, first 9 minutes. In fact, the Sooners did recover and tie up at 14, but after the first 41 plays of this game, TCU had run 32 of them and had the ball for, I believe, 11 of the first 16 minutes. So they clearly had control of the ball. It was 24 apiece at halftime, and you're wondering, how the heck did it even get to this point? How? And we'll talk about that in a second, but second half, OU, despite the problems that they had, and believe me, Trevor Knight struggled just as much in the first half as he did the second. It looked like the Sooners were finally getting things going, and they were going to be all right. That first drive in the second half was the first drive in the second half against West Virginia, where they got the job done. 6 minutes plus, and they get the touchdown at 31-24, take the crowd out of the game. You're feeling good, right? TCU hadn't answered, and they scored in just over 2 minutes. Trevone Boykin, that guy can play, huh? Yeah, he good, all right. Running the ball on 3rd down with options, passing the ball with his 3rd and short, 3rd and long. He looked like Brett Favre. Considering last year, he looked disastrous. That spread offense, think it's helped him out a little bit? Oh, yeah. You think Sonny Cumbie and Doug Meacham have helped him out as co-offensive coordinators? Oh, yeah. Helped out a lot. TCU, we learned, has a terrific offense to complement, those terrific defenses that Patterson's had over the years. Who thought that this was going to be a combined 70-point game? But that's what it was. And then the touchdown that the Sooners gave up to make it 31 apiece and to make OU's only lead in this game such short-lived. Quentin Hayes is the nearest defender, and I don't even think he's within 10 yards of the play. We saw busted coverages. We saw guys not even lined up where they should be, and this is early October. Why is this happening? Especially if you're a team serious about winning the Big 12 and wanting more than just a Big 12 championship. Now you'd be lucky to even get that. But the most mysterious part to me was when it was 31 apiece, a quarter and a half to go. Why is Oklahoma out of their next 12 plays, Josh Heupel, passing on 11 of them? Knight was not playing that well anyway. Well, guess what he ended up in the game? 14 of 35, 309 yards. Did have a touchdown, but would eventually end up with 2 interceptions, including the dagger in the Sooners' back. It felt like Julius Caesar. And most of the time it's going to, when in a tie game, you have the ball near midfield, pivotal moment, it's going to feel like Julius Caesar in the back, the Ides of March, when you are looking in one direction and Paul Danson from TCU is looking at you right back. When you throw the ball, it's like you're playing catch with him. Problem is, Danson plays for the other team. He plays for TCU. He picks it off, virtually untouched, touchdown, TCU. Turns out to be one of the biggest plays in the game. And I'm not saying Trevor Knight is the reason why OU lost the game. He's a big reason, but he's not the only reason. This was a case where the Sooners absolutely stunk up the field with complete unorganization. How many times in this game did we see the Sooners look to the sideline like Trevor Knight? They look, and is it Knight? Is it the coaches? Is it the guys upstairs? Where they're not getting the plays in on time to where they're changing the play at the last minute, and you're seeing the play clock in that box scoreboard, and it's down to 5, it's down to 4, it's down to 3, and they still don't know what they're going to do, and players aren't lined up where they should be, and you have to burn a timeout. How critical was that? With 3 minutes to go, you don't get it on 4th and 1 on that huge play, 4th and less than a half a yard to go with Pirine, and TCU empties the kitchen sink and stops you just shy of the 20-yard line. TCU now has the ball, but you don't have any timeouts left because of all those screw-ups that you had to burn 2 of your 3 timeouts previously. Would have been nice to have had a couple of those timeouts, but now TCU can take 2 minutes off the clock, and you get the ball back, but you have no timeouts. You got to march it over 80 yards, and remember, a field goal won't do it. So now you need 81 yards or 82 or however much you need and a touchdown to try to win the game. Timeouts are like gold nuggets. They're like your investment. I mean, they're like, I don't know, get out of jail free card. They are important. And to not have them, especially when they have to waste them on such stuff that you should have already had taken care of back in September, especially if you are a well-coached team like Bob Stoops. Teams usually are, and you are still struggling getting plays in, from the sideline to the field, and you have to call a timeout. It is absolutely, I'm dumbfounded that this still happens. It's not just this year, but we've seen it in previous years, but especially now when you're trying to get out of Fort Worth with the win, and you can't do it, you're not giving yourself the best chance because you're having to waste timeouts. And defensively, we're seeing players, again, not lined up where they should be and seeing absolute blown coverages. It just blows my mind what I thought. I thought the defense was finally over stuff like that. Maybe against the West Virginia game, I thought maybe for a little while it was aberration because they did make adjustments in the second half. But the second half, we were seeing blown coverages as well against TCU. 33 points against TCU you thought would have been more than enough to win this game. Well, not anymore. And give credit to TCU, though. They nearly beat OU 2 years ago. Nearly beat them last year. Third time was a charm since joining the Big 12. And, of course, in 2005, they upset the Sooners, but that was back when they were in the Mountain West Conference. 4 keys to the game that we're going to review that we previously brought up on the weekly matchup show yesterday. Number 1, talking about Boykin, make sure he doesn't go crazy running the ball. I'm going to give OU an actual C+ on this. He was TCU's leading rusher, 75 yards is what he ended up with rushing-wise, but it did take him 25 rushes to do so. Boykin hurt Oklahoma more with his arm than anything else. And Sooners give up 3-man rushes when it comes to going against spread offenses. They don't work. Boykin had way too much time to throw. It's ridiculous, all right? Again, it's not all on the players. The coaches got to know, got to make adjustments like they did against West Virginia. That was good, making an adjustment, and West Virginia only got a meaningless second-half touchdown. And granted, they only got 1 second-half touchdown in this one. But the bottom line was when they needed stops at times, it didn't always work out that way. Number 2, as far as the keys to the game, we talked about quarterback chemistry, Knight to the receivers, a big fat F. We talked about this before. Knight was very inconsistent. When he threw it to Shepard, that's great, but then again, Shepard can make a lot of quarterbacks look better than what they are. And, it's not even funny right now until it's proven to me how much Knight has digressed. When he does well, I'll give it up to him like I have. But he took some major steps back today, and it, for the most part, wasn't quarterback pressure. It was on him. Can't be missing wide open receivers, and can't be throwing it to the other team. James McFarland, defensive pressure. This was the third key. McFarland's a good player. I'm going to go incomplete on this one. He only had a tackle today, but TCU as a whole, they made it their point to make OU's ground game the focal point and try to make Knight beat him with their arm. Job well done. So it's one of the situations where, you sometimes one player you think makes all the difference in the world. It's more than just one player for TCU. It's a lot of players. I'm going to go incomplete. And then number 4, as far as the 4 keys to the game, talking about time of possession, I'm going to go D in this situation. Yeah, the Sooners did eventually win a time of possession battle, but it's not all about quantity. It's all about quality, what you do with the ball, controlling the other team and trying to wear them down. The Sooners never gave themselves a great opportunity to do so because the ground game was largely ineffective. So that's why I give them a D. And also, too many third and longs. So you're 7 of 18 for the game on third down tries. Yeah, try to win a game like that when there's too much hanging in the balance. So I'm going to go D right there. Again, yeah, time possession. They started off very slow. It did pick up as the game went along. But again, the ground game wasn't where it should have been. So for the Sooners, before we talk about the Sooners, let's talk about the Horned Frogs real quick. The remaining schedule at Baylor. I'll be curious to see if College Game Day goes with that. I got to see what the rest of the schedule nationwide looks like. Both teams are undefeated. Baylor struggled in the beginning, but did pull away from Texas. I think they won 28-7. Then TCU host Oklahoma State, host Texas Tech, go to West Virginia. That could be entertaining. Host Kansas State, go to Kansas, go to Texas. Home against Iowa State. Don't be surprised if TCU does 10 or 2 or better with that schedule. Patterson has got them really believing, and now the offense, they're playing very well. Defenses at TCU always play good under Patterson. For the Sooners, I really don't know what to expect from them entering the Texas game, the Red River Showdown. At the beginning of the year, if you told me how would OU, even with 1 loss, do against Texas with 3 losses, I would say OU would win, no question. Well, problem is Texas's defense plays just as well, has just as good of athletes as TCU's, and right now I am worried about this OU offense. It does not look good at all. Texas's offense has struggled a bit this year too, and they've had injuries. So I look at the OU-Texas game right now as one question. What's the over-under? If it's anywhere under 30, I might take that. That might be my only sure bet. But right now, I would not pencil in an automatic W for OU against Texas. Just remember last year, OU was a double-digit favorite, and we know what happened. It was a long day for the guys from Norman. Well, it's going to be a long trip for the guys from Norman on Saturday as TCU gets the better of OU. Congratulations to the Horned Frogs. They upset the Sooners, and they proved to be a major thorn in my Sooner side, 37-33. As they'll shoot up in the polls, OU will take a drastic NST plunge. But it's one game. We'll see how the Sooners respond, and we'll see how Trevor Knight responds, and hopefully he can resemble somewhat of that quarterback we saw against Alabama a few months ago instead of that crappy QB performance that we saw last year against West Virginia and against Louisiana Monroe. But again, it wasn't all on him. Defense got off to a bad start, and coaching decisions weren't always the best. And again, they got to get better organized. Croak. Who was in there?